Okay, we're recording on another hot summer's evening in London. So welcome to Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration. It's a weekly show that goes out over YouTube and as a podcast over all of the major channels. And each week I get to sit with an inspiring person and listen to them tell their story and share it with all of you. This week is no different. I'm joined by Talisa Tossell. Welcome, Talisa.
Hello.
Fantastic. I'm honestly intimidated because Talisa is one of the hugest YouTubers in Britain, and she sort of does this and she's on camera for a living. So I'm gonna take notes, and she's been very gracious with me here. I'll give Talisa a little bit of an introduction so you know the scale of the person that you're listening to today. So Talisa is a YouTuber, a professional YouTuber. She has 2.1 million subscribers, over 500 million views. Incredible. She's also got a vlogs channel, which is Talisa Tossell Vlogs. 100,000 subscribers there, just over 2 million views. Very active on Instagram as well, with more than 1 million followers on Instagram. And pretty recently onto TikTok as well. Already 500,000 followers, about 11 million likes on the stuff that she does. And we'll get into the content in a moment. But Talisa, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll start talking about your content.
Okay, so I'm Talisa. I do slime. I started in 2016, and obviously with trends, like you don't expect them to last at all. And then suddenly, somehow, it's lasted for 4 years. So this is my full-time job. I do slime professionally, which is a sentence I never thought I'd be able to say. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
A professional slimer. Have you got any slime with you, by the way, just in case there's somebody watching who... Okay.
So this is like it's called butter slime. There's lots of different textures, and this is made with clay, and it's like a non-Newtonian fluid, so it moves, but it's still a solid, and you can still hold it. So it's very cool, and they come in like different scents, different colors, everything. So yeah, it's really interesting.
You said non-Newtonian
fluid or substance. I think it might be substance. It basically means it's not a solid, but it's not a liquid, but it kind of is somewhere in between the two.
Incredible. It's quite a scientific explanation. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
How did you get into slime? How did that come about?
So it must have been like early 2016 on my explore page on Instagram. I saw videos, and the kind of like thumbnails equivalent to Instagram, they're quite striking, and I remember just looking at it and being like, what is this? And I clicked on it, and yeah, I just found it really weird. I was like, I don't understand why anyone would like this. But like with most things like that, you just keep clicking on them because you're like so curious as to why anyone likes them. And then I eventually found one that had a really nice like sizzly noise to it, and I was like, oh, I like this. And at the time, Instagram wasn't like how it is now in terms of like you're able to save stuff and have everything as accessible as it is now. So I had to download it, and I was like, I don't have enough storage on my phone for this, and it's like clogging up all my things. It's like loads of pictures like me and my friends, and then it's just like some slime videos. So I was like, I just want it to be more organized. So I thought about like putting it in folders, maybe buying a new phone, but at the time it didn't make sense to do that. So what I did was I created essentially like a burner Instagram account, and I just posted a ton of videos, like literally 60 videos a day that I was just finding and found interesting because I knew they all get lost in my likes. I like everything. I'm like that person that just goes through and yeah, likes everything. So I posted to this account. On the first day, it got 5,000 followers. And in 2016, bear in mind, like I had no social following. Like I was working as like a waitress, like doing jobs here and there. And yeah, I just was like so taken aback by that. But it was never like about following. So I just kept doing what I'd done in the beginning, was just posting loads of videos that I liked. And it was really just like a hobby. And in 6 months, I got 800,000 followers on there. It's just like, it was so large. And I don't know, I really enjoyed just the sensation of, it wasn't a job, it was just a hobby, like I said, but I just enjoyed the sensation of having people who were there who enjoyed everything about that, and they weren't particularly there for me. And then yeah, a few of those people were just like, how do you make this stuff? And I just kept sending them like other people's videos. And they were like, why don't you just make a video, because you are into the same stuff we are. And I had a YouTube channel. I was doing lifestyle stuff. Like I saw all the beauty bloggers getting like free holidays and stuff. So I was like, I want that. And I decided to sign up. And that's how I started on YouTube originally. I was doing like Primark hauls and things. And yeah, I stopped that. And then 6 months later, I came back and I did one slime video. It was meant to be one slime video. And overnight, that got 2 million views. And
What?
I know, and bear in mind, I had 90,000 followers and my views were averaging like 5,000. I had like 2 videos that did really well back then. And that's where I got my following from, more than, you know, having a sustained following. So I was just like so shocked by this. And obviously, I knew that meant YouTube could be a job for me. So I was like, this is probably just going to last for 3 months. So I'll just do it for as long as it will last. And then it's been 4 years. So maybe I should have stopped it. But yeah, no, it's great. It was a happy accident.
4 years and counting. What was the video that got 2 million views? What were you doing in it?
I think it was just like how to make slime, and I just said like easy, and it was like I think 2 separate videos. It was just a really simple process, just showing the basic ingredients needed. And I think why people were watching me was I literally hadn't made slime before that video, so I was exploring it and I was discovering it in the same way the viewers were, and so it was a lot easier to understand than like me explaining it now. I use terms that I know people don't understand, but I can't really unlearn it. So I think it was that growth process of like everyone learning with me. Yeah.
Right. Very relatable. How do you make slime, by the way?
It's PVA glue, so the stuff you use in like primary schools, and it's borax, which is a substance that's normally used for like cleaning products, but when you dissolve it in water, it gives off an ion which attaches to the PVA glue, and then it makes the semi-solid. So it's just really interesting. But if the borax isn't dissolved, it doesn't make that. It just goes like rock hard. So you have to add it gradually, and there isn't like a set amount. It really depends, because yeah, it can change in like concentration and everything. But it's quite simple. It sounds quite hard when you're explaining it, but it's fun. Yeah.
It sounds like a real art that you develop over time. Do you make all of your own slime, or do you buy some in?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I was just making my own. I was showing people how to make theirs as well. And then as slime kind of grew, we had this like niche that everyone like didn't really want to particularly make it themselves because it can go wrong a lot. And they just wanted to buy it off people. So there was this whole community of sellers coming about. And a lot of these people who were interested in it in the beginning were ranging between like 11 years old to 13 years old, and then there was like the older teens who were like 18 to 21, and then there was a whole generation that was like in their 40s and 50s, and they all started making these shops. And because it was in such high demand by everyone, they were selling out. They would upload like 300 slimes every week, and within 2 minutes it would be sold out. So you have to have all your information like put in. And so everyone was like, how do you make this stuff, and like how do you get it, and how do you review it? Because obviously it isn't like a normal shop dynamic where you can go in and test the products. And so what I was doing was buying these products, reviewing them on my channel, and then people didn't have to wonder like what they were like. So I started reviewing other people's as well as making my own. And then pretty much for like up until now, I've just been taking other people's products and reviewing them and showing people what they look like in person, because obviously they look very different when you're handling them and when the actual person who's used to handling them is handling them.
Right, right. What I love about your story is the way that you've just experimented along the way with what works, and the audience will tell you. Right, YouTube's one of those platforms where the audience will really tell you what's interesting and what's not interesting.
They're brutal about it as well. So you always know when it's like right or wrong. But yeah, it's exactly that. And you have to listen. And I think that's the thing I learned in the beginning, and something I maybe don't do as much now, but people give you indications to whether they like what you're doing or not.
It's cues, yeah. And slime is a big thing. You know, YouTube's one of those places where niche can become mainstream, and it's you know, the evidence is right there in the number of subscribers, 2.1 million subscribers, and half a billion views. There's a lot of interest in this topic, and and you actually go to slime conventions. You're quite a celebrity in the slime.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough last year to get to travel a lot, and we got like the best trips, and it was really interesting as well because everyone on these trips, like I said, we've all been in it since like 2016 or 2017, so we have these really deep understanding of each other that like you wouldn't have with a normal stranger. It's almost like watching YouTubers. And so we know like all the past relationships people have been in, like all the stuff they're posting about. And so you meet these strangers, but they're never strangers because you know everything about them and vice versa. So I was going to these things, I made really good friends, and we just got the best experiences. And I've been traveling like all over the US, had chances to go elsewhere, but I love the US. So yeah, it's mainly been there.
Well, hopefully you get back there there soon when the things open up. Now, I did a bit of research before this, and I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try and cast my screen. I'm not sure if it'll show up in the recording here. Let's just see. So you and I can now see this, but let's see if it turns out in the recording. But I'll explain it just in case it doesn't. So what we're looking at here is Google Trends. And actually, first of all, I went on to google.com and I typed in how to make, and there's the autocomplete. And the first thing that comes up was slime. And that autocomplete is based on the number of searches. So this is a very popular search term. And since then, I've gone into Google Trends here just to see whether there are any interesting trends that we can see in slime. And it turns out there are. So the blue line here is how to make slime. And the fun fact there is between January this year and now, it's pretty much doubled in interest. So huge interest, spiking at about the time of lockdown. People are obviously flocking to their sort of homemade slime benches and making slime. And there are two other things that it seems to correlate with. The first is the yellow line here, which is how to make pancakes, which seems very popular, but less popular these, right now than slime, and how to make love. Now, why these things are correlated, I don't know, but isn't that interesting that there's such a surge in interest just around lockdown? Have you found that your audience is more engaged than ever during the COVID lockdown?
Yeah, I've definitely noticed like a huge increase in views as well, because like around Christmas they really dipped, and I think it's just because people are doing Vlogmas and things, and it's so busy. So it was such a blessing in disguise really to have this lockdown, because obviously like YouTubers are thriving, as awful as everything is in the world, it's just a nice like happy place to be. But yeah, it's really interesting you said how to make slime came up like automatically, because in 2017 how to make slime was the most googled thing in the world, like above anything. And I found that so interesting because I remember hearing that, and it was like in all the newspapers as well, and it was great because they were like linking all our videos, so we were getting like loads of views around that time. But yeah, and it's still so popular. And if you had told me when I was entering it, it would be like this, I would have never believed you, because I don't know, it seems like a niche, and somehow it got mainstream and it stayed okay. But yeah, the views at the moment are fantastic, and it's pretty great.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean it's quite extraordinary. But there's a really serious side to being a YouTuber, isn't there? It's hard, it's easy to sort of just look at the content and say, well, that's, you're playing with slime, and but there's a lot of work that goes into planning a piece of content and filming it and editing it. Talk a little bit about what goes into that, and how much work it takes to really make a living from it.
So yeah, so the basics obviously just coming up with the idea, and then after that is coming up with the execution, because you can have a great idea and then the moment you're going to do it, it just all goes down the drain. And I think especially with slime, like a lot of slime, once you mix it up, all the colors mix up. So if you're creating a nice creation, it's a one-shot scenario. And the thing that people are like so invested in is in slime, as well as the aesthetic and appearance of it, is the sounds. And so as soon as you're filming, someone ends up mowing their lawn, and this happens all the time, and it's a one-shot thing, and this has taken you hours to prep. someone's just started mowing as I said that, which is very funny. But it's just really interesting because like they can ruin it for you, and you can't go out and be like, don't mow your lawn, because everyone has to just get on with life. And then if they're like, why? Like, I have to poke some slime. So yeah, there's obviously the frustrating aspects of production, but then after that, editing. I actually really enjoy editing. I know a lot of people don't, but I find it really nice, and you can see what's working well when you're filming and what's not. But it's quite time consuming, and I think when you're experiencing maybe droughts of ideas, it does become quite tedious. But yeah, in the editing, if you do it yourself, it's also really good to edit it onto different platforms. Like you mentioned, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. I don't do Twitter, but I do like YouTube and yeah, the vlog channel, hopefully soon. I've been saying for a long while that I'll start that, so let's see. But yeah, you can kind of switch up the content that you've made for one stream to so many, and not only just this like cross promote, but it builds up different audiences. Like on TikTok, my main audience is in the UK, and I think it's like 90% in the UK, whereas on YouTube it's 90% in the US. And so you're getting this huge drive that is like incomparable. And then Instagram used to be great, and I think my top ones used to like Brazil, the US again, and UK. But now I'm just finding like it's not as good as other platforms for me, and I don't know if that's kind of across the board. But yeah, I just find it so interesting how one piece of content can perform differently on different sites and go to different audiences by extension of that.
So you have to cut them in different ways, don't you? I often get asked, you know, when I'm representing Google, about some of the other social platforms, and you know, are they competitors? Well, kind of yes and no, I think is the best answer, right? The social media world is like an animal kingdom, and all of those animals are quite different animals. They serve a different audience. The content that works on one won't necessarily work on the other. And you know, for somebody like you, a creator, that gives you a multiple set of canvases to work with and attract and engage different audiences. Indeed, and you do it so well. But it's a single piece of content which you slice up, right? Now that's, I mean, give me a sense of what sort of hours do you work? I mean, this is a real job, right? It's time consuming.
And I think there's the problem with YouTube and any social media job where you're working from home, and I think a lot of people are relating to this now with lockdown happening. You don't have set hours because you're always in your workplace. And so yes, you can be like, I'm going to work 9 till 5, which very rarely happens because you don't have like bursts of creativity on the clock. So I was literally asleep one time when I had my best idea, and that was like mixing. I bought like fake AirPods and I mixed them into slime, and that video went viral everywhere. Like everyone was downloading it and posting it. And it was like, even people like I really admire who YouTubers were posting it. And that literally came to me in my sleep, and I was sleeping, and I just remember waking up and being like, write this down. And yeah, it's non-stop. And even when you try and not think about it, unless you're physically out of your space, like you said, with conventions and stuff like that, it's just very long hours, and it's often like trying to do stuff, getting it wrong, trying that again. And so you're seeing like a 10-minute video at the end and you don't have much to show for it. But when you like actually carry a camera around for the whole day and show like a week in the life, for example, everyone's like, wow, you actually do a lot more than we thought, and like we're not going to demand like videos every week now. But it's interesting, and it's interesting you should say that as well, because I think everyone always assumes YouTubing thing is just kind of like sitting in front of a camera doing it for 10 minutes and then just living like a life of luxury outside that. But yeah, it's non-stop.
It's yeah, no, I can confirm that it's I know a few YouTubers, and I can confirm it's not that, particularly those who some of them, well, at least to begin with, daily vlog. And unless you've got a team around you, you know, that is absolutely oppressive in terms of workload. Though you really are one of the top YouTubers in the country, and indeed one of the top YouTubers globally as well. You know, it's definitely a big subscriber base by YouTube standards. I'm sure you've got the plaques to prove it, hanging up somewhere. What's it like being a big YouTuber? You know, you're kind of always on display in a way. You know, you get feedback, positive and negative. You probably get recognized from time to time out in the public. What's that like?
So it's actually really funny. So obviously you're open to public scrutiny as any YouTuber is online, but in terms of actually getting approached, like I'm really lucky in that it's just my hands. Like the funny thing is, I always have these nails on. You can't see them too well right now, but um, they're my defining thing, and I'm so loud as well. Like I'm always like laughing with my friends, and like when I'm out you'll hear me before you see me. And so they never really see me and go, oh my goodness, it's Talisa. They hear someone, they turn around, they look at my nails, and they're like, oh my god, I love you. And so it's such a different experience to like what other people go through. And also I'm really lucky in that you know, that means when I'm quiet and I'm just walking alone, no one notices me, like literally no one. Like I never ever get approached if I'm not talking. And maybe that's just a sign that I should be more quiet. But yeah, it's interesting, and it's really fun, and I think it's great for me as well, because I always wanted it to be about the product rather than me. And I think that I've got to experience like the really fun aspects of being a YouTuber. And obviously, you know, there are non-fun aspects that come along with any job, but for the most part, like I've avoided a lot of them.
Yeah, well, and fortunately, right, because celebrity is not the glamour that it appears to be. It's
No,
it's
not
a
at all.
difficult place. You've experimented also with a bit of ASMR.
Yeah.
Can you explain what ASMR is and why
Okay.
you were drawn to it?
So ASMR is the autonomous sensory meridian response, and that pretty much just means that you get like really satisfied, like when you hear someone singing and you're like, oh that's gorgeous, and like your hair stick up on your arms, for example. That's the ASMR response. And even like hearing the sound of like grass and being like, wow, that's really relaxing, that's ASMR. And it's in things that you don't particularly recognize in day-to-day life, and that's why you're having that response. But yeah, ASMR on YouTube is slightly different because it's like experimenting with different things. And I saw my friend Karina Garcia doing it, and she did a fantastic job, and I was like, I want to try this. And she was eating all these great foods, and I was like, I want to try that. And I didn't want to like just waste money trying all these like really expensive foods. So I was like, you know what, I'll eat it, I'll buy a mic, and then as soon as I made the money back for all these things, I'm taking the video down. Like I was like, this is so awful. Like I'm eating into a microphone. I remember the funny thing is as well, when I was in school, I was so like, I wasn't a bad student, but I wasn't one that like really wanted to work. So I would like Google like how to make money with doing nothing. And then it was like ASMR. And I remember being like, that's so weird. I would never eat into a microphone. And here I am eating into a microphone, and it did really well, and I ended up having to do lots because people kept saying do more. And I loved it because like I love food and I got to try new stuff, but at the same time it was just so, I don't know, it was a weird experience to watch me do it. And the thing is, like, I really enjoy watching other people do it. It's just watching yourself do it, I think you're very self-critical. But yeah, it's interesting. That's how I got into it. And yeah, I love the food aspect.
Yeah, I think I saw a few of your pieces with honeycomb.
Honeycomb.
Amazing, yeah. And it makes my eldest son is really into ASMR. In fact, both of them listen to it as a sort of soporific lullaby that gets them off to sleep. And one of them sort of likes it for the tingles. It's not for everyone. It's another example of one of those niche things that sort of become mainstream. And there are some huge ASMR artists, and you know, you can account yourself amongst them as well. So Talisa, it's not just for you. It's not just about YouTube. You've got lots of interests outside the YouTube world. In fact, you and I have started working a little bit together recently on music. Tell me what drew you to that, and you know, why you find it important.
So in general, like I think music is just such a fabulous medium because there isn't any requirements in terms of like, you know, having to go to university and stuff. It's just about talent and just being great. And I think that's one of the things that really drew me to what you're doing, because it's helping people from all different backgrounds and bringing people together and bringing new talent to the surface. So that's what I was really drawn to in your project. But I think music in general is fantastic. And there's so many different genres as well that you can kind of do whatever. Like you can do like, I saw, what was it? There was a violinist like playing like rock music, and I just loved it. It was great. He like had it like through like an electric wire up to an amp, and I think that yeah, music's so transformative and beautiful, and it can be portrayed in so many different ways, so it's fantastic.
It sure is actually, and one of the biggest YouTubers in the world is a violinist.
Really?
I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but yeah, really interesting different ways of playing violin with different types of music. It's amazing. Well, you know, I really appreciate you helping us. Big Community Records is the label, and Kwazi Cort's the artist. And we had a session the other day. You're actually here as a mentor. You're an advisor. And I can confirm that you've taught me so much already. You know, you're a brilliant creator who's built a brand. So you know a lot about this stuff. You know, there's a lot that certainly I can learn from somebody like you and many others, which is a great note to close on, Talisa. There's probably a lot of people out there who are aspiring YouTubers or social influencers. What advice would you have for them?
This is a tough one because I think it's so dependent on people's like channels and what they want to do. But as a general rule, I would say thumbnails are the most important things. They're always things that attract me to things, and I know that's like a huge aspect because you have like the click-through rate on YouTube, and if you don't know what that is, it pretty much means people see your stuff, they click through, and then they watch the content. And the higher that is kind of dependent on the thumbnail. So that's the first obstacle before the video, before the execution, before anything. And then after that, I would just say try and film with natural lighting. That's always a nice setting. Know what you're doing. Don't have long intros. That is the worst thing. I hate them. And that's actually something that people said drew them to my channel, because I just do like 10-second intros and they're like, oh my god, I love it, because you know, people just tell the whole life story. So don't do that. And then what else? Just do what you like, because like with slime and like with ASMR, they're weird things. Like I know they're weird, but I like them, and so that means there's someone out there will like it. And it depends on like how big the audience size is. And when I started slime, like there wasn't a slime community or like a big audience for it, and then it just happened. And you can upload a video now, and then in 5 years time, you know, that could be a trend and you can come back to that. And you know, like the algorithm especially, it's going to recommend content that's doing well at that time. So it's always going to come back to that. Do what you like, and yeah, just have fun with it. If you're not enjoying it, don't do it, because everyone will be able to tell that you don't like it.
Well, that's an amazing set of tips. I perhaps should have asked you that at the start. Was my introduction a bit long?
No.
Anyway, and I've got to get the thumbnail right. I mean, oh my goodness, this is the pressure. Talisa Tossell, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. You're a real inspiration. You're teaching me lots, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you, Talisa.
Thank you so much for having me.